Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today, we are discussing dramatic vintage-inspired iterations of the Omega Speedmaster, fraternal rather than identical twins, both of them 39.7mm in stainless steel, designed to evoke the same CK2998 vintage Speedy. Let's see what they have to offer and which one I prefer. Now, we'll talk about the first watch in the series. This watch, a 2012 special edition, a numbered edition, known as the first Omega in Space, or FOIS on the fora, was never a limited series watch, although each individual unit is numbered. The timepiece was, however, significant in that it marked the first of the modern pre-moon or pre-professional style, I should more accurately say, Speedmaster cases. It features none of the beveled shear guards that you would see on the later professional post-1965 Speedmaster timepiece. You'll also note that the lugs are more or less straight, as they would have been on the original CK2998, which was one of the original iterations of the Speedmaster. So between the smaller case, the straight, minimally beveled lugs, the no-guard profile, this watch is evocative of its period, and its period is the early 1960s. 1962, astronaut Wally Schirra takes his personal Omega Speedmaster, a CK2998, into space aboard Mercury 7. As a result, the timepiece is immortalized, first in legend, later in this tribute timepiece, and you can see on the case back the exact month and day of his 1962 soiree into orbit is embossed on the caseback. It's a wonderful tribute that is historically evocative in its size as well as details, and you can see those continue on the dial, where you have a vintage Omega script as well as an applique Omega logo, which was distinctive of the 321 caliber Omega Speedmasters, the pre-moon watches. You'll also note the alpha style hands for hours, minutes, and seconds, and the varnished white baton-style hands for chronograph functions, again, hours, minutes, and seconds. The dial is printed minimalist and a matte black. One exception, relative to the standard moonwatch practice as well as vintage practice, is the use of a sapphire crystal, but you can see a standard anodized aluminum tachymeter insert for the bezel. Note a vintage-style Omega logo on the crown. The timepiece is historically faithful, with one huge exception, and that is the presence of a Moonwatch caliber inside. Both of these watches use the Omega 1861 18 joules manual wind, 21 6-beat rate, 40-hour power reserve, no hacking or stop seconds, but a tank-tough cam lateral clutch chronograph that has been through the wars and lived to tell about it with NASA. It's the same movement still used in the modern NASA issue Moonwatch. Now, the timepiece is rather spare. It's minimalist, it's historically accurate, it's faithful, right down to the strap, an aviator-style calfskin with a contrasting stitch, and a simple stainless steel high polish pin buckle. Let's take a look at its more exuberant and extravagant 2018 counterpart. Same case, literally identical to the fraction of a millimeter. Same movement on the inside, but you can already see things are a bit different on the caseback, where this watch features no dedication to any particular time frame or event. However, this watch does feature individual numbering in a limited series, as this is part of a series of 2,998, whereas the other watch is simply a numbered series. No explicit limit was imposed. On the dial side, things get interesting. The first distinction you'll note is the bezel, which is both a ceramic insert with the numerals as well as words in enamel, white enamel, so you have ceramic and white enamel, all of high polish, a higher grade of material, the same sapphire crystal, a dial that could not be more distinct from the FOIS. As you can see, it is a racing-inspired tritone, black, silver, and red. Both watches are loomed, this one a little bit less so, but whereas the FOIS features a printed dial, this watch features all applique hour indices, so you can see it is a somewhat higher grade and more luxurious dial. It features a silvered matte finish on its center. It has a little bit of an air of a Rolex Singer exotic dial, often known as a Paul Newman. This feels like one of the early examples, like the 6239. A timepiece that, frankly, is evocative of Daytona Motor Speedway, the 24 Hours of Le Mans, the Indy 500, Monaco, more than any aeronautical exploit. It features a perforated calfskin leather strap designed to evoke the same with a contrasting silvered stitch, but the same polished steel pin buckle. The dial does have greater depth in that the seconds and hour track outboard is stepped down from the center dial, and the contrast on the center registers is inverted. It is white on black rather than, well, I should say, it is a rich and deep white on black rather than the more vintage-inspired narrow font or low stroke weight font on the FOIS. So you can see there are a lot of detailed differences, even in features that should be outwardly similar. I'll also mention that this watch features a matte set of registers. On this one, they're a little bit glossier, like a lacquer. And of course, this watch featuring a splash of color with the chronograph second sanded center. Plus, the alpha style hands are present and correct, same as on the FOIS, but you can see that they are blackened rather than being standard polished metal. Okay, let's talk about the advantages of these two watches. First, we're going to talk about the racer. What does this have to offer? Well, it has a higher grade bezel. It's a combination of ceramic and enamel, and in addition to being less common, there aren't too many pulsation scale Omega Speedmaster bezels. It is just made of sterner stuff than what you'll find on the numbered edition. I'll also mention this watch is significant because it is more inventive. It elaborates. It takes some of the cues of the original, such as the primitive case form, the alpha style hands, but it elaborates and innovates. It creates something that never existed. A pure feat of imagination. This is a question asked, hypothetically, what if a vintage pre-moon Speedmaster had been a racer's watch? And in fact, it is true to history in one sense, as the original 1957 Speedmaster collection was intended as a racer's watch and a motorsports watch, not as one for the aeronaut or astronaut. The timepiece is also less common. 2,998 of these were made, whereas this numbered edition, not limited edition, is number 11,351. So that's not to say it's the last of the line and there are 11,350 others. It continued beyond this number. So numbered but not terribly exclusive. This is simply a more common watch. Advantage CK2998. Other advantages. If you are a motorsports fan, a driving enthusiast, a car enthusiast, you're probably going to find that this watch just resonates more thoroughly in your heart than the FOIS. Sure, it has a romantic backstory, but this is probably more in tune with what you dig, and I dig that. Also, I'll mention that this is a more extroverted and expressive watch. If you like something that's fabulous as well as fine, this is easily your choice. It's a more distinctive watch. It's a louder style. Let's talk about the FOIS. Well, first, it's the traditionalist's choice. If you are into the history of Omega or the history of spaceflight, then this is a very close modern parallel to the watch that did fly on Wally Schirra's wrist. If you want something that's true to history in detail, this is easily the choice. The other watch is a what-if watch. This is a what was. Also important, the backstory. This is a real part of aerospace and aeronautical history. You'll see images of this watch on the wrist of astronaut Wally Schirra in the Smithsonian Archives. It really did play a role in a pivotal moment in the exploration of space, and though this is a modern re-edition, it is a very faithful one that pays homage and honors the history that has come before. It has a wonderful, real story. You need invent no fiction or product of imagination. I'll also mention that it was a bit of a pace setter as the first modern 39.7mm primitive pre-professional case. It established the template that was later used on the 2016 blue CK2998, as well as the driver's watch that we're discussing today. I'll also mention superior lumen. You're going to see why when we do the lume shot, but though this is the lower quality dial with its printed features, it is nevertheless the easier one to see by both day and night. The polished hands are a higher contrast on the dial base, so it's easier to view by day, and with bigger lume plots on the dial, it is easier to view by night. So from a functional standpoint, advantage numbered edition. This is a timepiece for the traditionalist. This is a more functional, readable watch, and this is a watch for the enthusiast of space and aviation. This is a watch for the driver. It's a product of imagination. It's something that never was, but would have been darn cool if it had been, and will be darn cool on your wrist. So which of these two do I prefer? Well, I'm a driving enthusiast. I'm not a pilot. I was in naval aviation public affairs, but I wasn't a flyer. On the other hand, give me some wheels if I can't have wings. I go for the CK2998 Driver's Edition from 2018. You guys let me know in the comment boxes below which one of these would be your choice. Okay, I'm actually blocking part of the Wally Schirra dial, but you can see that the Wally blows the driver away. The last tilt goes to the aviator.